Hiya, this is Hinny and Hinny Hi. It's the new name of my channel. For those of you who already subscribed, it used to be Queer Hinny, now it's Hinny Hi. Just felt more right to have this name right now. But how's everyone doing? How are you? Hope everyone's keeping well, all things considered. And I haven't made a video for like 2 months, literally. So here is the first one on my to-do list because of the coronavirus COVID-19 situation. Because of the situation, I am more sedentary than I was before. And some of you might know I've always been a student. Like, I'm still technically a PhD student, and I've basically been a student all my life, which is already a sedentary sort of sitting in your chair type of occupation. And thank God that I have a job. Hopefully, universe willing, I still have this job. But thank God I have a job at a restaurant where I move around a lot for many hours of most days. I think if it weren't for that, I might be a lot more. I might weigh a lot more than I do now. We are, a lot of us, furloughed, which is this new word I've learned, and a lot of us are learning. Thanks to the virus as well. We are furloughed, or we're anyway having to quarantine, self-isolate. So we are in this very sedentary state, and we are in Aries season as well right now, the first season of the astro year. So happy new astro year. I know it's a bit late, but happy new astro year. The new moon has already happened, so hope everyone is really kind of embracing this unusual Aries season. Aries season being a very blank canvas sort of season where we are entering this new spring terrain with excitement, but it's still the same energy, but it's very different. It's a very different terrain. It's not really what you would envisage immediately for Aries energy or Aries archetypes, but we are anyway having to be brave and also innovative in many ways, and keep finding ways to spark that spark, because that's also what Aries is about. It's the first sign of the zodiac. It's about sparking that spark. So I hope we're all able to, whether it's through Netflix binging or introducing yourself to brand new exercises or being otherwise really creative. Yeah, that's, I think, all I wanted to kind of preamble and ramble on with. This video is a request video, and I would like to first of all thank moonstar.a for requesting this one. It has long been on my to-do list, and it's the first one on my to-do list, so hopefully I will get through that list during these peculiar times. And the request was on the topic of having Jupiter in the 4th house in natal or personal astrology. So first we're going to talk about house astrology, and then the 4th house specifically, and then I'll be talking a bit about Jupiter archetypes. At the end, we'll take just a brief look at 2 examples of Jupiter in the 4th house celebrities. So I hope you're all ready to get into it. So let's first of all talk about house astrology, because that's like first and foremost. I'm of the view that houses must come before all. When we look up at night, or out the window at the night sky, it's the vast backdrop of the sky and space that greets us. Then we're looking at the stars, the constellations, the planets, the other bodies, and how they are moving through the sky, through space. And astrology recognizes also the importance of the number 12. And this is really important because the number 12 has connotations of the divine, and also, even when you add 1 and 2 together, you're given 3, and this gives us the magic number, the magic maker. And so we've decided with this number 12 that this is going to be the number by which we divide the skies, the space, into 12 sections, which equate then to the 12 houses. And while stars and bodies move through houses over just a couple of days, or in other cases over thousands of years even, constellations take a long, long time to move through houses. The houses themselves remain fixed. And in Vedic astrology, for example, then, The zodiac constellations have over time shifted, yes, yet the houses and their themes are unchanged. In Vedic astrology, I am a Leo sun, not a Virgo sun. I'm a Gemini rising, not a Cancer rising. Sure, but the themes of my first house, second house, third house, and so on remain pretty much the same, whether our lens is going to be tropical or Vedic. Each house deals with a collection of themes defined by the chronological zodiacal order, meaning that the themes of the first house are of an Aries kind of flavor, the themes of the second house are of a Taurian flavor, and the third house of a Gemini flavor, and so on. I like to think of the zodiac signs as the landlords of these houses, who have taken an interest in and made purchase on these houses, but they themselves are not the houses. They are not in ultimate control of the houses either. Sure, the landlords might make the rules for tenants of the house. They might extend or renovate. They might even live with their tenants. However, the landlords are still limited by the overarching physical and legal parameters of the houses. Indeed, the landlords are dispensable and have no control over the will of any tenants or visitors to their houses. And while we might have an understanding of the themes of each house based on our knowledge of the 12 zodiacal constellations, the houses are so much deeper and complex that in reality, most astrologers can at best provide us with an insight on 12 drops of 12 different oceans. That's how vast we're talking when it's the skies, when it's space. So, even if we do want to call ourselves astrologers or into astrology, we most likely will never have everything figured out because we can't see everything in the skies. So yeah, within the houses, there are in fact so many other constellations which add many more of these thematic layers. And we're also discovering new planets when looking deeper into these skies, showing us that basically each house encapsulates so much more than is even recorded or known. Still, the 12 zodiac signs have remained most significant, and so these traditional landlords are the ones who sort of kick off the themes of these houses, at least from our perspective on Earth. So we can now think of the constellations and the planets such as Jupiter as visitors of, or as tenants of these houses. They are aware of the landlord's contract. But just like you or I, they might behave, or just like we, might behave in our own particular residence. At the end of the day, it's up to Jupiter as to how Jupiter will respond to the conditions of the contract. Will they be a good tenant, completely in their element and satisfied with what the landlord is asking them? Will they totally refuse to comply and wreak havoc on the landlord's property? Will they begrudgingly abide by the contract, but take advantage of any opportunity to end the contract or at least improve their living conditions? What might Jupiter make of the fourth house? Well, the landlord of the house, this fourth house, is Cancer. So we can first imagine that Cancer has come along and found her perfect abode. She's done works on it to look exactly how she wants it to, and she's sorted out all of the legal shiz. The logic goes that fourth house themes, therefore, are Cancerian. So primarily we're dealing with a cardinal, yin, water sign kind of contract. In short, the conditions of her contract ask that the tenants put their feelings and comforts first, but also that they are quiet and receptive tenants, and that they sort of let the house seep into them and let themselves seep into the house. She's put the tenant's personal comfort as top priority, and ideally that the tenants stay as long as possible. That's what she wants, and that there is a reciprocal relationship between the tenants and her. Specifically for natal astrology, fourth house themes typically deal with your personal past, nostalgia, with your personal memories, your personal comfort zones, your privacy, where your heart truly belongs, where you are most rooted, and also things like your personal family, however family is construed for you. This landlord wants you to stay there. She wants you to treat the place like a home and not a simple house or a shell. She wants you to bring all things and people that you vibe with into this house, into this space. But she's just the landlord, remember. So we need to look at the rest of the natal astrology. That is, what sign or signs are actually in your fourth house. It may well not be Cancer. So think of the signs and houses as not tenants. The signs are more like interior designers who have been hired by the landlords to really sell this house to the tenants. The landlord can't control the designer's vision, and so the end result might not be exactly what would typically gel with the landlord's vision. So now for the planets. When you look at your natal astrology and see which planets you have in which houses, you can consider the planets to be the loud and permanent tenants of the houses, having to make the most of whatever contract and settings they've found themselves in, for the good, the bad, or the ugly. In natal astrology, I view the planets in houses as where you'll naturally and most readily recognize and utilize your personal powers. For example, whichever house you have Mars in tells you how you're most likely already going about your drive, your will, your assertion, and which themes you're directing that Martian energy at. I view these also so-called empty houses, therefore, as areas of our power that we don't necessarily understand or can easily access, though an understanding of house astrology can show you the sign or signs you have in these empty houses, and therefore the way in which the designer has envisioned the landlord's vision for you to then tap into. If you have more than one planet in a house, think of it as simply more than one loud, permanent tenant. And you'll need to understand the archetypes of each planet to see how exactly they can live together. Remember that they may not like each other, as so many astrologers like to say, but they still have to make it work because that's the contract and that's your natal astrology. And the choice is to either mediate and keep your hold on that harness, or ignore the discord and watch how you just never seem to be getting a grip on the themes of that house. So now that we've got to planets as the tenants themselves, we can look then at Jupiter as the tenant of the fourth house. And before we look at what this might mean in natal astrology, let's discuss some archetypes of Jupiter. So if we throw out some Jupiter keywords amongst many astrologers, we've got stuff like the teacher. Jupiter's the teacher, the philosopher, the preacher, the lucky one, the divine one, the enthusiastic one, the optimist, and more. I've got Jupiter in my first house in Leo. And so the astrologic goes then that wherever Jupiter is in your natal astrology tells us such things as how and where you're lucky, what sort of stuff comes just easily to you, and where and how you might push your luck. We're tempted also to view Jupiter as a good egg amongst all the planets. But like all the planets actually in astrology, it can go both ways. Any of the planets can get you killed or have you undone. It's just a matter of how. In Vedic astrology especially, I've come across less flattering interpretations of Jupiter, revealing that Jupiter is exactly or actually a simple expander of things. That is, Jupiter just multiplies whatever mess it's close to by about 1,000,000 times, which obviously isn't great, Jupiter also being associated with greatness. Jupiter is also not simply a teacher, but a teacher of big, heavy lessons, not too different to the planet Saturn, which Saturn is far more likely to be maligned and hated on than Jupiter. But anyway, these big, heavy lessons can especially hit home when hubris has occurred. So when you think you're sort of divine, but you're not, or you pushed your luck too much or for too long, and you are reminded that you're in fact not a god or free of all cares, and perhaps this comes in the form of some embarrassing incident, because this archetype of Jupiter really doesn't want to be embarrassed. You know, Jupiter leads this very sag energy, which I'll get onto in a minute. But Jupiter leads this very sag energy, and sag energy tends to be very proud, cocky, sure, have their convictions with them. And so this kind of energy definitely doesn't want to be embarrassed or shown up. But that's kind of the form that the incident might take that kind of slaps you across the face and is like, you're still a human. And there are a lot of other archetypes of this Jupiter. Archetypes, by the way, just being synonyms or rough equivalents for Jupiter, found in multiple forms and across all times. So we can find Jupiter anywhere and everywhere. You don't need to be an astrologer or some sort of fancy person who's studied mythology or any kind of academic. You don't need to be any of these things. You just need to look at even the basic information on Jupiter, and you'll see how that energy plays out. Dolo de Pilotman, one of the most popular astrologers here on YouTube, one of the coolest, is often talking about energy signatures, and that's really what an archetype is as well. It's like you can find these energy signatures of Jupiter just in your everyday life. Even if you've never touched a book on astrology, you've never taken any interest in astrology, I can guarantee you'll see and find archetypes of Jupiter and all the planets in yourself, in others, in situations. Major archetypes then, of course, include the myth of Jupiter or Zeus, this king of the gods, as well as also the scientific archetype of the planet Jupiter itself. The planet Jupiter, despite being absolutely friggin' humongous, also has about 80 moons. Did you know? And just in case you thought that's just in case you thought we here on Earth were anything special with our one moon. So you get this idea of Jupiter being a bit of a show-off. That might not be the right word, but a bit of a sort of grandiose sort of planet or archetype. And in astrology, Jupiter is the planet, as I mentioned before, associated with Sagittarius. It's the planet ruler of Sagittarius, and it's also the planet ruler of Pisces. And so a couple really prevalent archetypes of Jupiter are this go big or go home energy, as well as the energies of wisdom, of belief, of faith. And in spatial or locational astrology, which is basically just this idea that places themselves, countries, places, spaces also have an astrology. If you look at the chart for the United States, that is the Sagittarius rising chart, and this makes a lot of sense, making such spaces also archetypes of Jupiterian energy or of a Jupiterian outlook energy, where everything is the bigger the better, and where an optimistic passion exists to cross all borders. So this passion, this energy is so strong in like Sagittarius or Sagittarius rising places. Ideologies that pertain to freedom as well are Jupiterian. And being jolly, maybe even ideologies themselves are quite Jupiterian. Religions, faiths, cultures, very Jupiterian. And also just being jolly, or being jovial, or Jovian, as it's sometimes called. Just being this kind of outgoing, or exhibiting this outgoing Sag energy a lot of the time is very Jupiterian. Other archetypes include anything that's like pie in the sky or overly wishful. And we can even see this in the planet Jupiter itself, which is this massive gaseous plant place on which there's actually no known solid ground to come down to. And we often in astrology have this discussion of, Gemini being ruled by Mercury, being very down to earth and very with the program, very with the facts and the data, and Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter, being very much in the air and often wanting to be untethered and in the clouds. So Sagittarius finding trouble, Jupiter finding trouble coming down to solid ground. And so travel and the all-encompassing, these are also Jupiterian archetypes. Positive publishing, upholding laws and convictions, and even zealous proselytizing are all archetypes of Jupiterian energy. Horses, centaurs, and like other similar kind of beings are Jupiterian archetypes, as are many forms of like riding, being wild, revelry, and like general goofiness as well. So what might we get when this type of planet, Jupiter, resides in your natal 4th house. Many astrologers will state that Jupiter is in exaltation in the sign of Cancer. I really like Dolo de Parlement's analogy, just to go back to Dolo, of exaltation as kind of like being in Disneyland, where the planet gets to do everything it wants, and there's a sense of it acting at its highest level as well. Actually, the number 4 looks a lot like the glyph, the astroglyph for Jupiter. And my husband also has this placement. He's got this Jupiter in Cancer placement. He's enormously giving, almost always cooking really delicious food, and always giving his friends gifts and sharing loads of his stuff. And I think this exaltation is mainly attributed to Jupiter, because Jupiter is this expanding on and being big about everything, but what Jupiter is expanding on is being ever wise about care, Cancerian theme, care, about family, about roots, about emotions. And this most likely makes the Jupiter in Cancer person therefore exceedingly caring, exceedingly generous, exceedingly reciprocal. And it's sort of a more wholesome way for Jupiterian power to be, as opposed to other ways, for example, where Jupiterian energy can just be reckless and cocky. And so that's not really a great, exalted kind of thing. But Jupiter in the 4th house is a bit different to Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter still wants to expand, but it's on 4th house themes, not more global Cancerian themes. Because the 4th house is one of the 6 personal or lower echelon houses, these expansions are most likely more about the 4th house themes, as they affect you primarily, personally. And in the 4th house, Jupiter wants to expand on your personal comfort. So think big homes, or big family, or big memories. Even if in like public or work situations, you with this placement are likely to highly prize being comfortable above all else. So even in a formal situation, you can just look very at ease. You're very confident and comfortable. And when in your comfort zone, you're just like possibly suddenly spurting out all these wise things. And even your philosophies might start to crop up when you're in your zones of comfort. And you might be extremely wise about how to expand on the family and roots that you have. You're definitely going to be super comfortable with crossing boundaries and with pushing your luck. You could be a very, if you don't ask, you don't get, or if you don't ask, you won't know sort of person. You might have this sort of rootedness about you, because again, the 4th house deals with your personal rootedness, roots, making you comfortable with confidently going that extra mile to find something out. Hence, your outgoingness is uninhibited, and your reflections on your personal past as well are most likely optimistic, even if your past was quote-unquote bad. There's a sense of a blessed past here too, or at least being able to feel how you are now blessed to have come out of it the way you are now. Your personal roots are also very big. So this could mean many things, including like a sprawling family tree, or a variety of places you feel at home at, or feeling at home everywhere, as well as this big confidence and faith in your tried and tested patterns, because the 4th house rules your personal patterns, like tides, your personal tides. And these patterns, which assure your comfort and security, are what you're going to place a lot of your bets on, if not all your bets. Your physical home as well could be ever expanding somehow. And there's also this huge comfort, I think, with learning, pretty much learning anything across a broad horizon, so long as it's fun, but even better if it's fun and it serves you by keeping yourself and your journey grounded. And you could also feel very at home with teaching or even preaching about stuff. So yeah, I picked a couple Jupiter in the 4th house people to look at as kind of case studies. The first being the artist Billie Eilish, who an Aquarian friend of mine introduces to, and I thought for the longest time that they were called Billie Irish. Yes, Billie Irish. And anyway, we can see from this birth chart that Billie is a Pisces rising. making Jupiter the life path ruler or the chart ruler, and therefore making the fourth house super important in terms of the key themes of Billy's life path. Billy's Jupiter is 12 degrees retrograde in Cancer. This is someone who has an exalted Jupiter. The life path ruler is, yes, exalted, but restricted. As retrogrades do present this delay and hiccups in the planet's power, but they also provide much more intense and earlier levels of reflection. First off, just go watch like a few of Billie Eilish interviews. Just watch some interviews and like see how comfortable Billie is, how comfortable Billie comes across. And definitely, yes, with that Jupiterian confidence, but also it's so cash. Like it's so cash, it's so comfortable. Consider also Billie's brother, a family member who Billie seemed to just know would be wise to work with, and that it would be like a big part of Billie's right way, because your right way, quote unquote, is also a Jupiterian archetype. Just knowing the journey to go on, just knowing the path to go down. This is all like right way, ninth house, Jupiterian, Sag, Piscean sort of stuff here. And Jupiter also at 12 degrees suggests to me that there's divine magic here. Piscean magic, that is, especially, to be had in your roots, to be found in your home, in your family. And it's most likely to be, or not most likely, but it's likely to be a musical kind of magic, because Pisces deals with music. Pisces deals with poetry. Pisces deals with spirituality in its purest forms. Let's take a look also at J.K. Rowling's chart, who has Jupiter 22 degrees in Gemini in the fourth house. And Gemini is one of these signs where Jupiter is thought to be, or said to be, in detriment. So not exaltation, but in detriment. And to just go back to Dolo de Piletman's analogies, being in detriment, according to Dolo, is like the planet being at work. So it doesn't want to be there, but it must. And Gemini is all about the details. This is one reason why Jupiter doesn't really like it. Jupiter likes to kind of fluff over everything and dream, right? Whereas Gemini is a lot about the details. It's Mercury, it's mercurial, it's Hermes. It's like, give me everything. Let's talk about everything, single little thing, excitedly. So this is Gemini. And also Gemini is all about the immediate locality. So who and what is just around it. It's like, I'm not trying to be arrogant or pretentious or turn my nose up at the things and people around me. I'm actually interested in the things and people around me. I don't need to be bigger than I am. I don't need to think I'm bigger than what I have. And this is Gemini. And also Gemini is into the titillating properties of everything that's mundane. So gossip, for example, Gemini is really into that. And in this sign, Jupiter is itching to fly back to the skies, to dream, to debate even. Jupiter here is also forced to learn and express wisdom through research and relating to others, like on a one-on-one basis often, and to relish the here and now more and pursue a bit less that far-flung, lofty destination that Jupiter loves. J.K. Rowling's Jupiter makes that amazing trine as well to the ascendant in Aquarius, obviously providing a genius insight on making the most of a detrimental learning. A profoundly untethered Saturn as well, in the middle of an intercepted sign, that is Pisces, is squaring J.K. Rowling's Jupiter, creating tension for the individual to seriously make something of mundane learning. Perhaps a great way of making use of mundane learning is to just study what you already know, to study already known mythologies, or what people have already produced, what's already like passed around and talked about, to study these things, mythologies, classical languages, stuff that J.K. Rowling did while creating a whole new world, crafting a whole other world. It wasn't necessarily about trying to go the other way or go, what am I trying to say? It wasn't trying to cross the border too much. It was really about just collecting and being really clever, because Gemini is about being clever, friggin' clever and mercurial and having the cans. It's more about that and just working, putting your hands to what you have at hand, because Gemini also deals with the hands. It's about what do you have in front of you and what kind of genius things can you do. And this is what J.K. Rowling and others with this position have a lot of energetic, powerful potential to do. And the key to the wisdom here, because Jupiter is always looking for the wisdom, the key to the wisdom here with this position is learning to be comfortable with the already accounted for, to make sense of what is already known, and to then like super expand on that, as Jupiter always does. So of course, Jupiter can work in detriment. It's just about, like with, these tenants in these houses under these landlords, it's about making it work. And I think that's all I wanted to say about this little topic. I hope for Moonstar and others interested that it was fun, insightful, and I will be back very soon with the next on my to-do list. Have a great hump day, Wednesday. See you next time. Love ya. Mwah.